Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's explainer on the June 2026 AI frontier model landscape. If you're a developer, a system architect, or a tech leader making infrastructure decisions right now, the ground has literally shifted beneath our feet. Today, we're breaking down exactly what this wild new landscape looks like, from the absolute bleeding-edge capabilities to the hidden costs that could, frankly, blindside your entire cloud budget.
We're going to use today's explainer as your essential roadmap through this highly crowded market. We'll quickly cover the June 2026 Frontier roster, explore that massive 25x pricing chasm, look at provider and capability trends, decode model versioning, track the Gemini trajectory, and wrap up with exactly what you need to watch next.
All right, starting with Section 1, the June 2026 Frontier roster.
So, the crucial point is we've got 4 massive heavyweights aggressively gunning for your developer budgets right now. We are talking about OpenAI's GPT 5.5, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.8, Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro, and xAI's Grok 4. Every single one of these represents the absolute pinnacle of their company's research. Capabilities that honestly felt like pure science fiction just a year ago, yeah, those are just table stakes across the Frontier tier now.
Moving on to Section 2, the 25x pricing chasm.
25x. I really want that number to sink in for a second. We are no longer talking about shaving off 5 or 10% to optimize your costs. The pricing gap between providers at the cutting edge is now measured in orders of magnitude.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. The latest data from LLM Stats paints a pretty wild picture. If you're spinning up OpenAI's GPT 5.5 or Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.8, you're paying a massive premium, specifically $500 per million tokens. But then there's xAI. They have completely disrupted the cost curve with their Grok 4 fast non-reasoning model, dropping the floor to just $20 per million tokens. $20 versus $500. That is a 25-fold cost difference for models that are technically competing in the exact same frontier category.
Listen, the stakes for you as developers have literally never been higher. As this quote perfectly nails it, accidentally routing your basic everyday background traffic to a top-tier model isn't just a minor inefficiency anymore. It is a full-blown catastrophic billing incident. You just cannot afford to throw a $500 model at a task that a budget model can handle in its sleep.
Okay, Section 3, Provider and Capability Trends.
There is so much nuance in how these providers are structuring their catalogs. Take OpenAI, for example. They have a massive price spread right now, ranging from 10 cents all the way to $10 per million input tokens. That huge gap reflects the distance between their budget GPT-4o mini class and their flagship 5.5. Contrast that with Anthropic, right? They keep a much tighter catalog, but with a high $1 floor. And then there's Deep Infra, offering the absolute lowest entry point we're seeing, literally 6 cents. 6 cents per million tokens. We're also seeing massive demand for open-weight models, like Qwen 3.7 Max, being served up at super competitive rates on third-party platforms like Novita.
But hey, price isn't the only thing shifting. Context window limits are blowing up too. xAI is completely topping the charts with a staggering 2 million token window. Meanwhile, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are all hovering right around that 1 million mark. If you're a system architect, this is incredibly liberating. It means those notoriously context-heavy workflows, like indexing an entire massive codebase or crunching hundreds of PDFs at once, they have way fewer architectural roadblocks than they did even last year.
Next up, Section 4, Decoding AI Model Versioning. Now, what's really interesting about this is that navigating model names right now is practically an extreme sport of alphabet soup. But you basically have 3 distinct conventions you need to track. First, point releases, like Claude Opus 4.5 moving to 4.8. Those are your incremental upgrades, not total rewrites. Second, date stamp models, like DeepSeek R10528. That date is totally crucial. It's a snapshot that guarantees reproducible outputs over time. And finally, OSS variants, like GPT OSS 120B. That naming convention signals that open-weight models have matured enough to compete right alongside closed APIs on your dashboard. Actually, let me put a massive warning label on this for a second. Never ever treat an upgrade within the same major version as a guaranteed drop-in replacement. Seriously, even if the API interface doesn't change one single bit, if you skip regression testing on a point release, say jumping from GPT 5.1 to 5.5, it can completely wreck your application's behavior. We're talking unexpected tone changes, weird instruction following, or suddenly triggering a bunch of safety refusals. You have got to test before routing production traffic to a new point release. Every single time.
Moving along to Section 5, the Gemini trajectory.
To give you a bit of historical context here,
Remember when Google dropped Gemini 3 back in November of 2025? It literally triggered a code red panic across their competitors. Since then, they have just been relentless, pushing iterative updates across everything they do. Gemini 3.1 Pro is sitting as their flagship right now, but what is super fascinating is that developers are overwhelmingly grabbing Gemini 3.5 Flash for their cost-sensitive stuff. At $150 per million tokens, Flash is just hitting that absolute sweet spot between capability and budget.
And you can't ignore the massive corporate stakes behind these ecosystem integrations. Get this, according to CNET, Apple officially selected Gemini to power Siri, and they are reportedly paying $1 billion per year for a custom model. $1 billion? That statistic alone shows you the sheer, crazy scale of the tech rivalry happening right now. Whoever gets embedded directly into the device layer, the phones and operating systems we're literally holding all day long, wins the long game, for sure.
All right, final section. Section 6, what to watch next. Let's move to and see how this builds into actual, actionable steps for your team this week. First, circle June 8th on your calendar. That's Apple's WWDC 2026 event, and we are expecting all the deep technical specs on what that Gemini Siri integration actually means for developer APIs. Second, you absolutely must continuously audit your model routing. Like we talked about, you cannot afford a 25x pricing mistake. And third, keep your eyes peeled on third-party inference platforms like Novita. They're actively proving you can squeeze incredible performance out of open-weight models like Qwen 3.7 Max without paying those ridiculous frontier tier premiums. So, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. Are you paying 25x too much for your current AI workload right now? The June 2026 landscape is packed with absolutely mind-blowing capabilities, but is also littered with extremely expensive traps. I highly urge you to take a hard look at your stack today, reevaluate your routing, and just make sure you're using the best possible model for both your architecture and your budget. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep building smart.